Hi, my name is Vanessa van Dijk, and in this video I'm going to show you a skincare routine to relieve your dry skin, keeping the main focus towards the Ordinary products. Since they have the products to add hydration to the skin, to strengthen and rebuild your skin barrier and to lock in moisture. Now, as always, I would like to get started with my PowerPoint slides so that you can see the example skincare routines visually as well. And if you would like to go over them in your own time and you want to see a more detailed description about the products that I've picked, you will find everything in the description box down below. You can even download those PowerPoint slides. And then later on, I want to share with you the entire application. So let's get started with the morning skincare routine, which you can see right here. On the top corner, you can see the time of use. Below that, the steps. Underneath the boxes with the products that I've picked already in the correct order of application. And below that, the overall general guide of how much you need to use. So we're going to get started with the first step, which is washing your face. Now, since you have already dry skin, this can be with purely water. Just make sure that you're using lukewarm water so it feels comfortable on the skin. It's not too cold, not too hot. Please avoid hot water because you do not want to make your skin even drier. Or if you would like to, you can go with a gentle cleanser that's suitable for dry skin. So this can be with the examples that I have right here, CeraVe, Cetaphil, or maybe even the Ordinary Squalane cleanser. They can even give you a bit more of a moisturizing effect afterwards so it doesn't feel as drying on the skin later on. So either way, wash your face, rinse it off, pat the skin dry. Then we are going to add hydration to the skin using the Ordinary Marine Hydraulics. After you have applied it, you're going to leave it on the skin. There's no need to wash it off. Then you're going to follow with the Ordinary Amino Acids, apply to the skin and leave it on the skin. This helps to strengthen and rebuild your skin barrier. And then later on, you can follow with sun protection. Now, if you have, or if you would like to go with one of the examples that I have right here, so Cosrx is a mix of chemical and mineral sunscreen, whereas NIOD Survivor 30 is purely a mineral sunscreen. Both, in my opinion, feel extremely hydrating on the skin, that I do not see the point of using an oilant or moisturizer in between. Therefore, I recommend, depending on the sunscreen that you have, and it has already hydrating properties in it, and it feels already hydrating on its own, just skip your oil and moisturizer step and immediately use your sunscreen after the amino acids. But of course, it isn't wrong to include it in case your sunscreen in general shouldn't be enough for you. And then you would use your oil and or moisturizer after the amino acids, but before your sunscreen step. Now, nonetheless, if you have sun exposure throughout the day, sun protection is extremely important so that you can protect the skin from the damaging UV rays, not only to prevent or do not make the fine lines and wrinkle worse. Same would apply with hyperpigmentation or in general like sun damaged skin, because this may even be the cause why you have dry skin in the first place. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be that specific cause, but I do want to emphasize that once your skin is damaged, it's going to do not work properly, and therefore you can have the specific skin concerns, so please keep this in mind. Now, when it comes to an evening skincare routine, if you would like to, it can look pretty much the same. You can wash your face with a cleanser in the evening. This is where I recommend using a cleanser. If you should use a chemical sunscreen or like a mixture of chemical and mineral, something like Cosrx, this usually comes off very easily with just a gentle cleanser. And then you're going to continue with the rest of your skincare routine. And then instead of using your sunscreen, you're going to replace it with oil and or moisturizer as your last step in your evening skincare routine. But if you should have used a mineral sunscreen instead, or you may have worn a makeup as well that's a bit more like waterproof or extremely pigmented, which you cannot properly get off with your cleanser, like regular cleanser alone, I recommend using micellar water, oil or balm cleanser. Those can already have its benefits on its own for your dry skin, or you may just want to do a double cleanse using your oil balm cleanser at first, maybe micellar water instead, and then move on to your regular cleanser to properly wash your face, and then continue with the rest of your skincare routine to make sure that the sunscreen and your makeup that you have applied in the morning comes properly off the skin in the evening before you're going to layer the other skincare products afterwards. And so then this would be the entire setup that I want to share with you when it comes to morning and evening skincare routine. And again, I want to remind you, you will find everything in the description box down below. Now I would like to get started with the entire application. I have this set up right here. I'm going to kind of merge the morning and evening skincare routine into one so I can share with you the amount of each product and how you would apply it to the skin. And so again, as I mentioned, for the morning you can wash your face with a gentle cleanser or just with purely water. Since I'm going to use sunscreen afterwards and I'm going to keep my main focus towards a morning skincare routine, I'm just going to wash my face with water so that you can see this as well. This is completely fine to do because you do not have like excessive oil on the skin that you're trying to remove. Therefore, water alone is enough. But one thing that I recommend doing in between while washing your face with just purely water, especially when doing this above the sink, is using a washcloth in between. Those makeup cloths, those microfiber cloths. Make sure it's a very soft one. The ones that I'm using are very soft. They do not like really hurt on the skin, so they're extremely gentle. So make sure that when using a cloth, which is extremely helpful to get any sweat or dirt from the skin, even can help you with sunscreen and makeup to properly get everything off the skin when doing this above the sink, to wash your face. But it needs to be gentle. It shouldn't kind of exfoliate your skin, if that's like making sense. And so again, when using water, just go with lukewarm water. Please avoid hot water. So let's go ahead and do this. Now wet it. And then go ahead and squeeze it out and gently swipe it across your face and neck. So now go ahead and take a clean towel and remove the remaining water drops from the skin surface by gently patting all over. Please do not rub. This is an important step to do in between so that you do not come across pilling when layering the other skincare products afterwards, and that you're not going to mix your serums with the remaining water drops on the skin surface. Otherwise this starts to dry and feels tight on the skin. So now once you're done with your cleansing step, you can move on to the next step, which is going to be the application of the Ordinary Marine Hyaluronics. Now that one has a water-like texture, it's extremely liquidish, and when applying it to the skin, you need to use kind of like a fair amount to evenly apply it all over your face and neck. And so as a general guide, I recommend going with about 5 to 10 drops, more or less. Start off with 5 and then you can always add a bit more, but please do not go over that specific amount of product, otherwise you may end up with more product sitting on the skin surface and actually absorbing into the skin, and so that's something that we are trying to avoid. So use enough to evenly cover your entire face and neck, but it should be able to properly absorb into the skin when doing so. And since it has a water-like texture, I recommend like dispensing the products on the palm of your hand, then rub your hands together and then gently blend it all over. Please make sure to not get it into your eyes nor into your mouth. So then once you have applied it all over your face and neck, you're going to leave it on the skin. There's no need to wash it off. Now it should absorb pretty fast into the skin, that there isn't really a waiting time in between. However, as a general guide, you can always give it about 30 seconds to a minute between each serum so it has time to absorb into the skin. Once that has happened, you can immediately move on to the next step, which is then going to be the Ordinary Amino Acids. Now that one has a thicker texture than the Ordinary Marine Hyaluronics, so recommend going with about 4 to 6 drops. Start off with 4 drops. If that shouldn't be enough, then of course go ahead and add a couple of drops more, but I wouldn't use more than that, otherwise it can feel quite like smeary and sticky all over. And again, the serum should be able to properly absorb into the skin. When doing the application, please again do not get it into your eyes nor into your mouth. Rub your hands together and then blend it on top, evenly all over. So once you have applied it all over your face and neck, there's no need to wash it off. You're going to leave it on the skin. Now, if this is going to be your evening skincare routine or maybe morning skincare routine, but you do not really have sun exposure at all, or maybe the sunscreen isn't hydrating enough, you can use an oil and a moisturizer afterwards. Now, keep in mind, this is going to be the last step in your evening skincare routine, but it may be the second last step in your morning skincare routine because your sunscreen is always the last step in the morning. And so when going with this combination, I did include an oil as well as a moisturizer because I feel that mixing them in the palm of your hand and then applying it all over your face and neck feels the most comfortable. Now, of course, it isn't wrong to go with either one of them or layer them. So use your oil at first and then the ordinary natural moisturizing factors. And so there you can really adjust it. However, my recommendation would be mixing it. And so when mixing it in the palm of your hand, there isn't really a specific guide that you can follow because it always depends on how much oil or moisturizer you may want to use. But as a general guide, you can go ahead and use about a bean-sized amount more or less of moisturizer and then add between 2 to 4 drops of your oil to it. Now, I recommend keeping the amount of product in mind that you're going to use so that you have enough to apply it evenly and thinly all over, but it's not going to sit too heavy on the skin surface and that you're not being left with too much product still on your hands. Therefore, I recommend experimenting with what the amount would be in your specific case, but I wouldn't overuse it based on the recommendation that I just shared with you. So I'm just going to use about a bean-sized amount of moisturizer and I'm just going to add about 2 drops of oil to it. This is a great combination that I like to do myself. And then I just picked the ordinary rosehip seed oil. This is one of the famous ones. It feels great on the skin, may feel a bit too heavy if you would include it in the morning, but it's a great evening oil. However, they have other options as well. And then go ahead, mix it. And as you can see, it blends easily, like you can mix it without any concerns. And once you have nicely mixed it on the palm of your hand, rub your hands together and then evenly blend it all over your face and neck. So, and once you have applied it all over, you're going to leave it on the skin. There's no need to wash it off. Now again, this would be then the last step in your evening skincare routine. However, during daytime, and if you should have sun exposure, it's going to be the second last step, or you're not going to include it at all, which I usually would do. I just prefer to use an oil and or moisturizer in the evening and just keeping it very simple in the morning skincare routine with just the sunscreen, because the 2 sunscreen that I've picked feel like hydrating enough on my skin. And so of course you need to adjust it. Feel free to experiment with it. It isn't wrong to do so, but it may for some people feel too heavy or too rich on the skin. Therefore, I recommend just leaving out your oil and moisturizing step in your morning skincare routine. But because I'm going to kind of merge the morning and evening skincare routine together so that you can see the entire application, I'm now going to move on to the sunscreen step. Now again, you can go ahead with a chemical one, with a mixture, or just a mineral one, whatever you may prefer, go ahead and do so. One thing that won't change is how much you're going to use of your sunscreen. And this is about half a teaspoon for your face and neck, including your ears, and about 1 teaspoon if you want to include your décolletage as well, if you should have more décolletage exposure. Now, of course, this is an overall general guide. If that shouldn't be too much for you, you can of course reduce it, but you still need to use a fair amount to evenly blend all over so that you can properly protect the skin during daytime. And so I'm going to use NIOD Survival 30, which is the mineral sunscreen, and I have half a teaspoon right here so that you can see the amount of product that you would need to use. Again, keep in mind this can be slightly adjusted. Just make sure to use enough. With this one, you may want to give it a little shake because it's more like a serum kind of sunscreen rather than a cream or gel. So about that much, I'm going to dispense it now in the palm of my hand. So if you should have a fluid sunscreen like this or serum type sunscreen like this, it's a bit more than a coin size amount actually. then rub your hands together and then evenly blend it all over. Now if you can, I recommend using your sunscreen around the eyes as well. However, if this should be irritating, which of course depends on the sunscreen that you have and your eye area, then of course go ahead and avoid it. And then you have two possibilities. Either just wear sunglasses instead to protect this part, or you can switch your sunscreen to a sunscreen that you can tolerate around the eyes. So, and once you've applied your sunscreen all over, you're going to leave it on the skin. There's no need to wash it off. And so there you have an example of what a routine can look like and how much you need to use of each product when trying this out at home. This is what I wanted to share with you on how you can set up a skincare routine, keeping the main focus towards the ordinary products if you should have dry skin. And I do hope that you enjoyed this video, that you find it helpful. If you did so, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up as well as share it. And if you now want to learn more about skincare, I'm going to leave some of the videos at the end of this video, but you will find more of them on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon in the next one. Happy skincaring. Bye!